Good evening and welcome to RFL. I'm Richard French, and we begin tonight with a day that shook America's consciousness. I'm talking, of course, about Sandy Hook, which happened exactly 3 years ago to the day. Like Columbine before it and San Bernardino after it, the tragedy at Sandy Hook resonated across the nation. And all of these tragedies also spurred renewed calls for better gun control. But tonight, that is not the focus of our conversation. We're here to see this through the eyes of the families who lived where lives were forever changed on that horrible day. And joining us now is a good friend to the program, Neil Heslin. Neil lost his son Jesse Lewis that day, and Neil is kind enough to join us now in the studio. And before we talk about the day and everything else, tell everybody what made Jesse such an amazing little kid.
Oh, so many things to tell. He was just a happy-go-lucky kid. He was a force. Just perfect child. You know, I'm not saying it because he was my child, but just easygoing, loved life to the fullest, kind, compassionate, thoughtful. You know, describe him as an old soul, I guess. Wisdom beyond his years.
You told me once he liked to have his treasures.
Yeah. Yeah, the job I was working on one summer 2012, I brought him to work with me every day, and he collected stuff from the job, pieces of pipe, wire, basically odds and ends and discarded stuff from the workers. And he set up he called it a shop in the basement, and made stuff out of the wire and the little spools and everything. And you know, I said, well, when we're done with the job, we'll have to bring them all home to you, Jess. And no, he said, that's just a bunch of junk. I said, well, those are your treasures. And they let it go at that. And little did I know they really would be treasures when after he was gone. And I saved them all. I put them in a box, and they're in his room. You know, all fond memories of him, the days that he played with them on the basement floor, and look forward to going to work and hanging out with the guys, and all memories now. I'm blessed that I have so many good memories and good times we had together.
That horrible day, your 6-year-old son was responsible for saving the lives of other people.
That's correct.
Tell people what the authorities and people that were there, eyewitnesses, said Jesse did.
Well, his last words were to his classmates to run. At the time, apparently when the gun jammed or the shooter went to reload, and 9 of those children ran out of the classroom, and 2 of which had said to me, thanked me for, that their child was there, still here, because of the words, Jesse's words. And the one child said it was Jesse that told me to run. That was the only reason the child ran.
Are there parts of that day that come back to you that there's so much awfulness, and you learned about not just the courage and the grace of your son, but you've seen the ugliness and the worst of humanity, but also some of the best of humanity after it.
Well, I think I said that before, the night before he said it was going to be the best Christmas ever. And then after the tragedy that day, I was in Sandy Hook Center a day or two later, and thinking to myself, boy, was he ever wrong. And feeling sorry for myself. And then I realized he was right. You know, there was so much kindness and compassion and support. And people that came from all over the world, I guess, and to leave gifts and just to come to Sandy Hook. So it was truly the worst Christmas I ever had, but it was truly the best Christmas. I saw the true meaning of Christmas that year, and I never even took the Christmas tree down yet. We set it up that year, the weekend before he was murdered. The following weekend we were going to decorate it. He wanted to get his own ornaments, collection of ornaments, and that's as far as it ever got. It's still standing in the same spot in the living room.
I've spoken to some other parents, including Jesse's mom, but other families. I'm always struck at, for the last 3 years, a lot of people would have gone into hibernation, would have tried to shut the world out. But from the scholarships you've helped set up, and the other parents too, to the awareness about issues, to groundbreakings and parks named in your son's honor and the other kids' honors as well, you've put yourself out there, and I'm curious, why?
That's a good question. Well, you know, I was truly something that shouldn't have happened, and I was determined to keep Jesse's honor and memory alive, and with that, there was so much kindness and support that came into me. I wanted to give back in return. But I didn't want to set a foundation up. I didn't want a job or an occupation or out of it. And that's how the scholarship developed. And it's at a point now where it's an endowment, so it'll be there forever. Each year it generates enough money to give a substantial scholarship, and we're working on adding to that every year through a fundraiser my graduating class sponsors, and kind of serves as a reunion too, a little get together. Actually, we have a reunion coming up this year. Hard to believe, 35 years.
You mentioned once that at the dedication of a park for Jesse and all the 26 victims, 26 parks across the state of
Correct.
Connecticut.
Well, actually, the region, not just Connecticut, the eastern seaboard, pretty much from Maryland, I believe, to Massachusetts, Rhode Island.
You felt your son's presence that day, didn't you?
Yeah, it was a good feeling. Definitely to be able to give back like that. You know, it's a they're all beautiful playgrounds, and that are individually, each of them reflect the child that they were built to honor and remember. And you know, it's just about giving back to the community and helping people who aren't as fortunate, and
yeah,
you know, with the scholarship, you know, it's a great thing to be able to award that every year. And I look at it as being kind of unique because Jesse was just a first grader, and you know, the scholarship was developed and awarded in his name to a high school student every year. So it's, but not in Newtown, but in the town that I grew up in, and the town that Jesse was a resident of also, Shelton. And it reflects on my graduating class, the class of 1981. So it's definitely an honor to be able to award that every year.
Neil, I've seen in some of the families we've shared, it's obviously unimaginable for us who haven't gone through it, but what it must be like every day for the past 3 years and on these anniversaries. But a lot of strain's been put on families.
That's
And
true.
talk about just how hard, with the constant reminder, obviously, of the loss, but also the strain it puts on the families themselves.
Well, it's been a journey, not an easy journey, clearly, for 3 years. Every day is a struggle. To lose a child is the hardest and the most difficult thing to have to deal with in life. And it doesn't get any easier. And Joe Biden said to me 3 months after that tragedy, he said to me, "It never gets any easier, it never goes away, but it gets more distant." I'm thinking, what in the world does he mean? What's that supposed to mean? And it was something that stuck with me, and it got to be about a year, and I realized what he meant. It's not quite as raw anymore, and the loss doesn't get any more distant, but the void of time is more distant, and things of that time period, things in your life fill that in. You might start a new relationship, you may start a new job. A lot of goods come out of it. The playgrounds, being able to give award a scholarship. Jesse's mother's set up a foundation, Jesse Lewis Choose Love Foundation, which focuses on social emotional learning. She'd have to give you more details on that. And it's a great thing. And she's been all over the world speaking, and has a tremendous amount of support. And JT, Jesse's brother, I think it was 52 days, he refused to go to school after that tragedy. And Scarlett said to me, "Well, you can't force him to go." And I said, "No, he's got to go on his own." And some of the survivors from Rwanda, the massacre there, had reached out to JT and Skyped with him and told him that he'd be okay. And he, the next day, got up and went to school and decided he was going to do something to help them. And that was JT's recovery process and his support system. And he began selling rubber band bracelets and raising funds from his friends and through events that I was at or Scarlett was at. And he was determined to raise money to send one of those individuals to college. And he raised enough money to sponsor that person to send him to college, the girl, for 4 years, along with helping to support her family while she was at school, which I think is an amazing undertaking.
Yeah.
I give him so much credit, and I'm so proud of JT. But that's been a great support and a healing process for him, and he's helped with other issues too.
Neil, you were speaking with our producer, Karen,
Yes.
I guess a week or so ago, and you were talking about just how common these mass shootings are in this country. And after you hung up the phone, about an hour later, San Bernardino happened.
Correct.
And it's, for everybody, we have these sinking feelings. We see Paris, you see San Bernardino. Obviously, we remember Sandy Hook, and you, of course, had to live through it. But it's got to be a pit in your stomach every time you see this, and just the senseless insanity.
It's not even a shock or a surprise anymore. It's almost something that it doesn't surprise you when you hear about it. But that's correct. After I got off the phone with Aaron there, he had went to dinner with a friend, and we were coming home and heard it on the radio. They were talking about the shooting, and it was.
Well,
But that's
it is. It's a horrible day, I know, for you. You also lost your mom unrelated on this same day back in 2007, I believe.
Correct.
And you've always shown a lot of grace and courage in remembering, obviously, an amazing kid, but also a terrible time. You've done so much, as so many of those folks in Newtown have. We didn't even talk about the trips to Washington and the conversations on assault weapons and trying to have some sensible legislation here. But nonetheless, on this terrible anniversary, you guys have tried to make some good out of the senselessness, and I certainly appreciate the time you always make for us, Neil. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you for everything.
We'll be right back, everyone. Please stay with us.